The late afternoon sun filtered through the dense canopy of Millfield State Forest, casting dappled shadows across the hiking trail where Mark Thompson walked hand in hand with his 7-year-old daughter, Chloe. At 34, Mark had made these weekend nature walks a sacred tradition since his wife's death 2 years ago, finding that the peaceful woods helped both him and Chloe process their grief while building new memories together. Chloe skipped alongside her father in her favorite pink hoodie, her brown ponytail bouncing as she pointed out interesting rocks and unusual bird calls. These forest adventures had become their special time, away from the demands of Mark's construction job and the everyday reminders of their loss. "Daddy, what's that sound?" Chloe asked suddenly, stopping in her tracks and tilting her head to listen more carefully. Mark paused, straining to hear what had caught his daughter's attention. At first, there was only the normal symphony of woodland sounds, rustling leaves, distant bird songs, and the gentle whisper of wind through the trees. But then he heard it too, a faint, desperate sound that seemed to be coming from somewhere off the main trail. "Help! Please, someone help me!" The voice was weak but unmistakably human, carried on the afternoon breeze from deeper in the forest. Mark's construction background had taught him to respond quickly to emergency situations, and his father's instincts immediately prioritized both helping whoever was in distress and keeping Chloe safe. "Chloe, stay close to me," he said, taking her hand firmly as they left the marked trail and pushed through the underbrush toward the sound of the voice. They found her in a small clearing about 50 yards from the main path. A woman in her early 40s lay partially buried in what appeared to be a shallow grave, dirt covering her legs and torso, while her arms remained free enough to claw at the earth around her. Her blonde hair was matted with soil, her navy business suit was torn and filthy, and her face showed the kind of terror that came from facing imminent death. "Oh my God," Mark breathed, immediately dropping to his knees beside the trapped woman while keeping one eye on Chloe, who stood frozen with shock at the sight. "Please help me!" the woman gasped, her voice hoarse from shouting. "I can't feel my legs, and I think whoever did this might come back." Mark's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The woman had clearly been attacked and deliberately buried, though not deep enough to cause immediate suffocation. Her attackers had either been interrupted or had intended for her to die slowly from exposure and panic. "Chloe, I need you to run back to the main trail and flag down the first hiker you see," Mark instructed his daughter. "Tell them to call 911 and say we have a medical emergency in grid section C4. Can you remember that?" Chloe nodded solemnly, understanding the seriousness of the situation despite her young age. "Grid section C4, medical emergency. I'll be fast, Daddy." As his daughter disappeared through the trees, Mark began the careful work of excavating around the woman without causing further injury. His construction experience had taught him how to move earth efficiently while being mindful of structural stability. "What's your name?" he asked gently, trying to keep her calm while he worked. "Victoria," she replied, wincing as he cleared dirt from around her rib cage. "Victoria Sterling. I was hiking alone when 3 men attacked me. They said something about teaching me a lesson about taking what didn't belong to me." Mark recognized the name immediately. Victoria Sterling was the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, one of the largest development companies in the region. Her face had been in the business section of newspapers for months due to a controversial land acquisition that had displaced several working-class families from their homes. Despite knowing who she was and understanding why someone might harbor resentment against her business practices, Mark never hesitated in his rescue efforts. A person in danger was a person who deserved help, regardless of their wealth or the ethical complexity of their professional decisions. "Victoria, I'm going to get you out of here," Mark said firmly, continuing to dig around her trapped legs. "Just stay calm and keep talking to me. What else do you remember about the attack?" As Mark worked, Victoria found herself studying the face of the man who was saving her life. His calloused hands and work-worn clothes marked him as someone from the blue-collar world that her business decisions had often negatively affected. Yet here he was, risking his own safety to help her without asking questions about who she was or whether she deserved rescue. "They knew who I was," Victoria said quietly. They mentioned the Riverside Development Project and said I had destroyed their family's futures. I think one of them might have been Robert Chen, whose family lost their home in the acquisition. Mark's hands paused briefly in their digging. The Riverside Project had been particularly controversial because it had displaced a community that included several of his construction colleagues. He had watched good families lose homes they had owned for generations, all to make way for luxury condominiums that most local residents could never afford. But as he looked at Victoria's frightened eyes and saw the genuine terror she was experiencing, Mark realized that revenge and justice were two very different things. Whatever wrong she might have committed in her business dealings, being buried alive in the forest was not an appropriate consequence. Victoria, whatever happened with your business decisions? This isn't justice, Mark said gently, resuming his digging. Nobody deserves to die like this, and whoever did this to you will face the proper legal consequences. As he freed her legs, Victoria gasped.